Hello and welcome to the part 2 of my low magic age video series. In this episode, what I did not go into detail in on my introduction, I'm going to cover now. There is a lot of things that are not apparent when people start playing this game. A lot of things that they don't know or realize. And this video is aimed at helping people understand what all the little quirks are so that they don't make mistakes in when they are creating characters and deciding on how they want to play the game and such. So I'm going to have to start a new game to show you some of these things and explain them. So this will be like my introduction, only a lot more detailed. The game settings, not really a whole lot to cover in this, although I guess I will mention a few things. Let's see, you've got these here, you know, roguelike mode, hardcore mode, easy, classic. Now, just so you know, characters will die. There's no perfect way to play this game to where you will never have anybody die. That I have experienced firsthand. As good as I am at games like this, there are a lot of situations where you just can't do anything about it. I guess there are things you could do in the settings, like if you were to go here and you were to modify these settings, you could make the game a lot easier for you. But if you want to play by the actual core rules of Dungeons and Dragons, you wouldn't change anything here. So for example, enemy doesn't multiply damage on critical hits. Now you could uncheck this and you will not have massive hits on your characters like you would, but you'll be able to do it to enemies. So like for example, you know, you have an enemy with like a two-handed flail come up to you and do a crit, and you know it does massive damage to you as an example, or a two-handed battle axe and do a crit and hit a character for like 60 damage and kill him in one shot. You can't prevent that kind of thing from happening. It just, you know, critical hits always hit no matter what, no matter how good your armor class is. So, or you have situations where the enemy gets initiative and you're not in the best position, or they focus on one of your characters with a bunch of ranged attacks, and like your wizard or cleric, and you know, if they happen to not be in the best starting position or come at you from an angle, and they all shoot at your wizard and kill him with like a couple of crits. Things like that happen. It's a little bit frustrating. So anyway, the point is that also if you choose advanced tactical, that will happen a lot more than you would expect. The enemies really go for your wizards when you put it on advanced tactical. It's kind of annoying at times when they will take the angle of approach where they can just barely get a shot on your wizard with a bow or something, and they'll take it rather than choosing a closer target. That's the kind of stuff that will happen on advanced tactical, where your softer characters will get heavily focused on by ranged attacks. It can be a little annoying. I was playing on advanced tactical because I was like, the default seems kind of boring and easy. And I tried advanced tactical for a while, and then once I started getting up to high levels, I was like, oh man, this sucks. You know, my wizard's getting heavily targeted, even though I have him surrounded by my other characters. You know, when the enemies start getting feats like, you know, precise shot and things that take away, the negative chance, the penalties for shooting into groups of enemies. They don't have any problem shooting at your wizard. So I decided to go back to default because things like that can really be frustrating, especially if you have a wizard and you're trying to protect him. So there's that. Now even though I play on the core settings, I started doing this. Just one tick on player's lucky dice. Now the reason for that is because critical misses seem to happen way too many times to me. Especially first, I don't know what it is, but it just seems like my rogue seems to just miss way too much than what seems reasonable for random rolling. It just seems to be my rogue. My other characters seem to be hit and miss on a fairly reasonable amount for their chances. But like my rogue, for some weird reason, my rogue with really good chances to hit will get basically misses or critical misses a lot. Like, it's crazy. It starts to annoy me when I'm like, what the heck? I put my rogue in a position to get a sneak attack, and it just misses all the time. I'm just like, this is really annoying. So there may be a bug in that. Maybe rogues have some weird bug with hit chances. I don't know what it is, but it really is. It seems to just be my rogue that this happens with. Because even my cleric, using a sling will just smack enemies left and right. Even when they have the same kind of chances that the rogue does. It's really crazy. So, on to the next point. Character level cap. I've noticed that the XP, your leveling speed is extremely slow. It turns into quite a grind. So even if I leave this on level 20, it could take a really long time to get there. I change it to 40 anyway, just because maybe I want a long game with epic battles. Now the character level up speed, I've tried this at different levels, and even if you put it at the max, it is still slow. You'll gain your first few levels pretty quickly, but after you get to like level 5, 6, 7, 8, it really slows down. I can't even imagine playing this on normal at high level. The amount of grinding you would have to do to gain a level is a little bit disheartening. So I recommend putting it on the fastest. Now, maximum quantity of minion monsters, I have not played it on anything but the max, so I'm not really, except for the first time I played it. But to be honest, I haven't really noticed that much difference. I think the most enemies I have ever seen in combat is about the default level of 8. I don't think I've seen more than 8 yet. But then again, I haven't played. My highest level party so far was like level 9. So I'm still playing on maximum of 32. Now, spellcasting materials, I played with this for a while in the beginning, and it kind of sucked. They just seemed really expensive, and your carry limit seems to be just too low. If you go into dungeons a lot, which like I do, and I only have a cleric and a wizard, so I don't have a lot of spellcasters, just my wizard and my cleric. And I'll go through a lengthy dungeon, and I'll find myself running out of spell casting materials, and I get to the point where I'm just like, oh well, should I bother casting that summon elemental spell, or should I just tough it out, you know, without the extra help? It gets a little bit like it gets to kind of like that. I'm just like, yeah, you know what, screw spell casting materials, and so I don't play with them anymore. As far as their costs, you know, when you first start out, they seem kind of expensive, but once you start rolling in the dough, it doesn't seem like all that much of a problem. The only problem is how many you could carry. I find it really contrary when characters that use ammunition, like you know, like an archer, you can carry thousands of arrows if you really wanted to. But a spell or spellcaster is limited by how much, you know, you can have. It has a very low set limit of spellcasting materials. I don't understand that, and so because of that, I no longer use that. I always uncheck that. Now the World Seed, I have not noticed a big difference here. The World Seed will be will randomly decide what towns and encounters and dungeons are at the beginning of the game. But when they refresh, after 30 days or whatever you set it at, everything's randomly changed again in towns, except for perhaps the trade goods. The trade goods I think are the same. But everything else gets randomly swapped around. Different items for sale, you know, things like that. And also dungeons. I'm not sure if the layout of a dungeon changes when it refreshes, or if only just the challenge level is changed. I've noticed that challenge levels will change when dungeons refresh. So like a level 1 dungeon that you've been through, when it refreshes, might be a level 6 dungeon the next time. But as far as the actual layout of the dungeon, like, you know, the same room layout, traps and all that, might be the same. I don't know for sure. Adventure start point, I have checked this and unchecked this, and I could not tell any difference whatsoever in how the game starts by doing that. Wild monster density. I have played this on different settings to see what they're like, and I will say that if you put it on max, it can be really hectic on the main map. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, sorry. I turned off my mic for that. I had to sneeze pretty hard. Yeah, the population on the world map can be really thick with enemies. You know, you're trying to get from one town to the next to look at the, you know, the blacksmith to see what they have for sale, and you're running into like 5 enemy encounters going from one little village to the next little village. It gets a little bit annoying. So I tried it at 150, tried it at 125. I find the default setting to be pretty much just right. You know, the number of encounters that are on the world map seem to be pretty good. Pretty not too many, not too few. The assassin and robbery event rate. These occur when you take tavern missions of different types. So, like if you are escorting someone or escorting a caravan, you either get attacked by assassins or robbers, and the setting decides at how often that will occur. Now, personally, the medium setting seems to be a little too much. I might get jumped by get attacked by an assassin or robber like 3 times between one point to the next. Seems a little excessive to me. I like to put this on low. I've tried it at the lowest, and it seems like the assassin and robbery events never happen, even if you put it on low. If you put it on lowest, although they do, like, rarely. Seems pretty rare, so I put it on low. And then it happens at what seems to me a realistic amount. Town refresh cycle. 30 days is a good number. I've tried it at different amounts, and you know, the default of 30 days seems like a very fair, reasonable amount of time. Dungeon refresh cycle, on the other hand, no. 30 days, no. I crank it to 100 because there are so many dungeons on the map that if you set it at 30 days, it becomes cheese in a way. So, like, you could just stay in just one little corner of the map, running around to the same little group of dungeons over and doing them over and over again in a short amount of time. No, that to me that's kind of cheesy, and you know, you don't get to really, you're kind of limiting yourself on the amount of content you can experience. So I've set it at 100 days, which basically forces me to explore and go all over the whole map, looking for other dungeons that are of my challenge level, rather than just sticking to the same little group. And also, if you choose the method of just going around doing missions, town missions, time passes very quickly when you do that. While in dungeons, time passes extremely slow. I mean, you can go through an entire dungeon in one day, whereas just traveling between dungeons can take you days. So I think that's something that they need to look at. The time scale in dungeons is a little too slow. I think they should speed it up so that you're actually spending a little bit more significant amount of time while you're in a dungeon. So now to the town setting. This, well, hireable adventures. If you put it to max, I'm not entirely sure what it does. I'm basically guessing. Custom character rate, I'm going to just assume that this increases the number of possible random adventurers that you will see at a tavern. That's really about all I can think I can say. I don't know. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think that's what it does. Now, the reserved experience points, I have speculated on what this does, but I really don't know because I haven't really hired any adventurers. But my best guess is that if you check this, the adventurer you hire will have either levels or skills that haven't been chosen yet, so that you can choose for them once they join your party. I'm just guessing here, but I think that's what it does. Now, the character creation part. Some things that people really need to know before they spend a lot of time re-rolling and starting over. What I'm about to tell you will save you a lot of that time. Now, I'll go over your ability stats first. Okay. Now, strength is the bonus on strength is how it is a bonus to hit and damage. And for dexterity, it's only bonus to hit with ranged weapons. Constitution is a bonus to fortitude rolls and how many hit points you get per level. Intelligence determines how many skill points that you will get per level, and also the limit on wizard spells. Wisdom affects cleric the levels of spells that clerics use, and for everybody it affects their resistance, the resistances to mind affecting spells. And that is one thing that I must really point out. if you make a party of adventurers and you ignore wisdom when you're rolling them up, you will suffer. When you get up in levels, your characters will not save versus mind affecting spells a lot, and you will lose control of your characters, or they will be generally be taken out of combat by controlling spells. You really can't ignore wisdom. You gotta either keep it even or put a couple extra points in it so you have a little bit of extra resistance to those spells. Now the other thing you can do is, let me start a character creation here, is when you are doing feats, I'm not keeping this character. I'm just well, I guess I should mention too that if you make a fighter, you're better off having a low dexterity, because otherwise points that you put into dexterity are wasted. The reason for that is because the best armor that fighters can wear is like full plate mail, and full plate mail only allows for a maximum of 1 dexterity bonus point. So if you have like a 20 dexterity and you're wearing full plate mail, it's wasted, except for if you happen to be using ranged attacks. That's the only time that having extra dexterity on a fighter is any good. And well, you're going to be meleeing most of the time, so anyway, this is just this character is not. Another thing too about dexterity, though, if there are some feats that you cannot use unless you have at least a 13 dex. Although, like, for a straight up fighter, I mean, that doesn't really matter that much. Well, I mean, like, if you have 13 dex, then you are able to start using like the dodge line feats, which, you know, can give you a better chance at reflex saves, you know, things like that. So unless you care about that, I would only go with the 12 dex. You can increase it later though. As you level up, like every 4 levels, you get to add a point to one of your abilities. So if you wanted to, you know, at level 4, level 8 or whatever, you could put another point in dex, and then you'll have access to those feats later on if you wanted to do that. So a fighter doesn't need to add any points to intelligence unless you really want to focus on any skills. Now, yeah, there you have intimidate, you have bluff. Personally, I haven't really used those. I have tried them, I mean, and they do work. I just don't ever think of using them much in combat. But because my fighters are usually on the front line, but their skills in those things, and you know, because fighters get very few points per level to spend on skills. So like you'll be able to increase your intimidation and bluff skill by 1 point per level, only one or the other. That's like how few points they get. So unless you want a fighter that does a lot of that type of thing, then you would have put points into it. But the last couple points I would add to wisdom because of the you know, the mind affecting spells. Now, but there is another way you can get around that. You could choose Iron Will, +2 bonus to willpower, which does the same thing. Will give you a bonus to resist mind affecting spells. Now I've had my wisdom at 10, which gives me no bonus or minus, and I've had Iron Will on my fighters. And even with that, you can still get a hit a lot. But I mean, it still is frequent for you to not save versus those mind affecting spells, because these pre-made enemies often will have the feats of like a greater spell penetration, even when they aren't of the level that they can even use it. the devs have done that. They've given high-level feats to low-level enemies. I don't know why or how, but I've seen it. Like halflings will get the multi-shot ability feat at like level 4. And you'll encounter a halfling group at level 4 and get hit by like 5 multi-shots, taking all your characters down by a lot of health. So it's kind of annoying. But if you were to make a halfling and you wanted to do that, many shots. Look at that. Prerequisite, level 12, dex 15, rapid shot. I can't do that with my character. I can't get multi-shot at level 12 even if I take a halfling. At least I don't think so. Pretty sure I can't. Well, let's just find out real quick. Halfling. Halfling rogue. Let's see. Simple weapons, hand crossbow, rapier, short bow. Actually, I'll look back at the race first. Read what it says about the halfling race. Because I'm pretty sure I've looked at this before. And let's see. Small creatures of the following traits can bring medium. They're nimble, strong-willed, blah blah blah. +1 bonus on attack and defense for their size. Reduced carrying capacity, slower speed. Using small-sized weapons, they do lower damage, half weight, same price. They are slower. +1 racial bonus on defense. +2 racial bonus against fear. Stacks with the halfling luck. Weapon familiarity, thrown, +1. See, there's no free feats. Nothing there. No free multi-shot. I get thrown automatically if I choose a halfling as an extra feat, as a free feat. But I'm going to do, because usually these halflings I think are rogues. I think. But even that doesn't give you extra feats. These are the feats that a rogue would get automatically. Fighters don't get any automatic feats. Barbarians do, but none of them are. So yeah, it's pretty much impossible for a character halfling to get multi-shot as a skill. So anyway, enough about that. One thing to note is when you're choosing weapon feats, if you are going to, I will say that in the beginning, two-handed weapons do not seem very appealing, and you can be like, well, why should I go with two-handed when I can, carry a shield and get better protection? Well, two-handed weapons are actually very powerful later in the game. Not at first. At first they really are lackluster. I mean, I can show you what I mean. I have to look at the list of feats that are available for two-handed weapon fighting. Just gonna throw together a quick little. If you wanted to go 14 dex, that would help with, because you can. Everybody can use simple thrown weapons in the game, and you'll find some really nice ones when you're playing. And that I guess if you were to go to with 14 dex, it would help with your hit rates on them. Alright, so two-handed. These are the feats for two-handed weapons. The very first one is +2 damage on two-handed weapons. That is pretty big. Improved two-handed fighting. Up 2 bonus to two-handed weapon fighting gives you an extra 2 points bonus to hit. Knockdown. When hit by a two-handed weapon, it is a 25% rate to trigger combat maneuver check. If the target fails, they get knocked down. This also includes one-handed weapons that are used as two-handed, which pretty much every weapon in the game, as far as I've been able to tell, can be used as a two-handed weapon. Even the smallest little weapon, and even I think even a dagger can be used as a two-handed weapon. Now, but any weapon that is used as a two-handed weapon gets 1.5 times their strength in bonus damage. So if you've got a 20 strength, I'll say an 18th strength for easier math, where normally you would get a +4 to hit and damage. If you use a two-handed weapon or a weapon with two hands, it becomes +6 damage. It's not really all that apparent when you're reading all this stuff that actually is happening. So like when if you make a character with an 18 strength, a two-handed weapon, and you go play and you notice, wait a second, why is my weapon doing more damage than it's supposed to? You know, it'll be like, you know, like a two-handed sword will be 2d6, and you'll be like hitting for 2d6 plus you'll be thinking +4 for your strength, doing up to 16 damage, and then you'll be like doing a normal hit, not a critical hit, and doing like 20 damage, and or 25 damage or something. You'll be like, wait a second, how am I doing more damage? Well, that's why. Because in 3rd edition, these 3.5 edition rules, two-handed weapons do 1.5 times damage. They don't just do your ability damage. They do 1.5 times your damage, bonus damage. Similar with knockdown, but the rate is 50% instead of 25%. So half the time you hit somebody, you can knock them down. But again, level 17 and you have to have 21 strength. So yeah, it'll be a long time before you get a lot of these feats. Have very high level requirements, but it seems to only apply to players. Enemies, they just have them if they want them to be. TH focus, two-handed focus, it's just at level 9 gives you another bonus to attack with two-handed weapons. So if you add all this up, say like at level 5, you can change. Okay, this one's level 5, gets 2 extra damage. So you can see at the beginning, you know, for your first 5 levels, a two-handed weapon is kind of boring, and you know, it doesn't seem like it does much. So yeah. Now, if you look at the two-handed weapons, you know, like, and you compare them to the one-handed weapons with a shield, you know, it's very easy for you to choose, well, I'm just going to go with a sword and shield, you know. And, you know, like a longsword or a scimitar has a big critical threshold compared to some of these other crappy weapons. You know, like, why should I go with a battle axe that doesn't have any crit threshold when I can get a longsword, you know, and have twice the chance for crits? So, but anyway, you can start out with a sword and shield and switch to a two-handed weapon later on. You know, like if you get some really nice armor going, you know, like some magical plate mail, full plate, you might not need a shield. Anyway, that's what I wanted to mention there about character creation. I also want to talk about the rogue and the wizard. There are different things about wizards and rogues that I must discuss, so that people are not making mistakes when they are creating their parties and starting over again and again, like I did. Until finding out later on, like, oh, you know, like, oh, I need to add points to wisdom, you know, that sort of thing. Now, I made a wizard character that was pure conjuration summoning. And the game will tell you when you look at, like, say, if you look at Charisma here, bonus to summon creatures' physical abilities. Well, I wanted my, and if you played other games that use this version, this like 3.5 edition rules, you will know that summoners, or sorcerers rather, rely only on charisma for all their spells. Well, that's not so in this game. At least, not yet. Maybe they haven't implemented it all the way, but there are sorcerers here. Well, summoners, I guess. They call them summoners, but they're basically the sorcerers from the 3rd edition. They're just not implemented that way. So if you wanted to, I focused entirely on summoning. I wanted my elementals to be, one-man armies. And they were. They absolutely were. The only problem is I didn't put points in intelligence. So when I got to like level 5, suddenly I could no longer cast any spells. Like I was like, oh, I get fireball, lightning bolt or whatever. And then I'm like, why can't I cast my fireball? I was like, ready to hurl fireballs at the enemy, and I'm just like, why can't I cast fireball? I had a 22 charisma, but I had like a 12 intelligence. And then it dawned on me, oh right, so all the wizard spells in this game are relying only on intelligence. This isn't like the actual 3.5 rules where sorcerers can't. The sorcerers rely only on charisma. So, anyway, I hope they fix that in development. If they want, unless they only want to be just wizards. But, so, when you build a wizard, you kind of have to split your points up between charisma and intelligence. If you want to have elementals with any usefulness. I messed up on my wizard here. I probably should have went with 18 intelligence and a 16 charisma, because I've tried it at different levels. I've tried 16 charisma, 12 charisma, 10 charisma, and elementals at 14 charisma and lower are 14 is okay, but when you get up a little bit higher in levels, your elementals start to fall off in their usefulness unless you have a higher charisma. But you can get higher charisma a couple different ways. There are items which boost your charisma, and you've also got the buff spell that you get at level 3. You can choose a spell that boosts your charisma by 4 points. You can use that before summoning an elemental. It's a little bit inefficient though, because of the cooldowns. I don't really like the cooldowns, but it's one way to boost your charisma. So the earliest item you can get is a +2 charisma item, and you can find those pretty early in the game. Even at level 1 you might find one randomly. So, and that can boost your charisma to 16, and then at 16, then your elementals are a little bit more, they become, a fighting force to be reckoned with. Now, wizards have their main weapon their main melee weapon is a crossbow. I use my crossbow heavily because of cooldowns. You have these cooldowns on your spells. You cast a magic missile, you cast a fireball, then you can't cast another one for like 3 rounds. It's really annoying. So in between those cooldowns, you gotta have something. You can either cast a buff spell, or you can shoot something with a crossbow. You get what's called magic crossbows. That doesn't mean that they are magic. It just means they're called magic crossbows. And what it means is that they rely on intelligence rather than dexterity for their bonus to hit. So when you can get a magic crossbow, you'll want to get one as soon as possible for your wizard, so they get a big boost to their chance to hit based on intelligence. And believe me, your chance to hit is really good. And I also don't use any spell feats at first. The first feat or 2 that I can put points into, I always put in ranged, using point blank and precise hits before I put points in anything else. That way I'm really good with that crossbow. And so the wizard will be very useful even when he isn't able to cast spells. Okay, now there isn't a ranger class in this game yet. But what I find to be a really good ranger combination is the half-orc barbarian. Not the fighter, the barbarian. Now the reason for that is, well, you get a bonus to strength and con for being a half-orc. And so that way you can get an 18 strength index. Con you don't need as much, because if you're going to be playing as a ranger, you won't be in direct melee combat all that much, so you don't have to put too many points in con. Now the barbarian gets what's called rage, and when you activate rage, it increases your strength by 2 points or 4 points, I forget. Let's see if I can view that here. Let's see. Traits. I'm looking at the wrong character. Rage. There's rage. Oh yeah, +4 morale bonus to strength and con. So that boosts my strength to 22, which does like +6 damage. Now this doesn't really help you yet. You don't get to start with a composite bow, but if you search the stores, or you might find one randomly as loot, you'll get a composite bow, and then your strength starts counting on your longbow damage. And wow, you do a lot. I mean, with when you turn rage on, and you don't get to really start with your ranged feats. The best you can start off with is point blank range as a ranged feat, and you only get 1 feat every other level. But once you get up to like level 5, level 6, 7, I usually start off playing melee as a just running around smacking stuff with a hand, with a melee weapon. But once I start getting those ranged feats, then I switch to the bow. And also if I find a composite bow, I'll switch to only using a bow. But I have seen crits of like over 60 damage doing this technique. So half-orc barbarian makes a really good ranger, but not until they're like level 6. Then that's when they really start to shine, and you're really doing a lot of damage. And if you you need a composite bow. Fighters, I go with half-orc fighters because of the bonus to strength and con. It's kind of a no-brainer. I give them a little bonus to wisdom, so they can resist mind-affecting spells. Cleric, I go with a dwarf because of the bonus to wisdom. You get a minus to charisma, which sucks, but you get a bonus to wisdom and I think constitution. So it's a fair trade. As far as turning undead, I haven't seen my cleric destroy undead yet. Maybe I don't know if they do, because I haven't gotten a high enough level cleric and fighting against a low enough level undead. But turning just makes them run away for a couple of turns in battle, which is not... I can't say it's all that useful, but sometimes you have to try it if you're greatly outnumbered by a lot of skeletons or something. But otherwise, I haven't used turn very often, so I don't put a lot of points in charisma. I do put it at 12, so I get a +1 to turning, and if I really want to, I can boost that up to 5 with feats. But now, clerics, the cleric will start off with a sling as a weapon, a sling and like a light mace. The sling is the primary. About two-handed weapons. that 1.5 damage bonus also counts for two-handed weapons, and also, you know, that includes bows and slings. So I don't know if this is something they're going to fix or change later, but for right now, a sling may not look like much, 1d4 damage, but if you have a high strength, like if I had an 18 strength on my cleric, I would be doing a bonus of +6 damage with my sling. That's a lot. And they, for some reason, slings seem to have a very good chance to hit. I'm not sure why that is. Even when I have a dex of 12. Oh wait, that's right. I forgot. Clerics can choose Zen archery as a feat, and so they use wisdom as a bonus to hit. That's why I get such a good chance to hit. I forgot that. So yeah, when you're making your cleric, I would go for point blank range shot and Zen archery to start off with, and you'll have a very good chance to hit with a sling. And believe me, slings are very strong, surprisingly, which is probably why those halfling slingers that you run into in the game do such massive amounts of damage. So yeah. And now for last but certainly not least, the rogue. Now the rogue is the one I have had the most trouble getting what I want out of it. The rogue can do so many different things. It's hard, and you want to like be kind. You may want to feel like being a jack of all trades, but it's really hard to be a jack of all trades and still be substantial, to be useful in combat. So I have tried everything with this rogue. I've tried going the two-handed weapon route. I have tried going dual weapons. I have tried I can't remember what else I tried. But right now, what I finally ended up with, and if you listen to this, it could save you a whole lot of time in trying out rogues. Dexterity with finesse. This is only if you're going to go if you're only going to stick with simple weapons. I have tried taking a sword as a feat, but the trouble with rogues is they have so few feat options. I mean, it will take you several levels to get to the feats for your rogue to be really to be strong in combat. What I have found, for me, the best way to go is let me see, did I pick? I can't remember if I picked what is my feats? Oh yeah, I took finesse. This will make dexterity any melee weapon I use will use dexterity for the bonus to hit rather than strength. I start my rogue off with a 20 dexterity, and then when I level up and increase and get to choose points to put on something else, I always add it to strength. Dex of 20 is plenty, but also because of armor. I mean, you get different armors in the game. To get the most out of them, +5 dex. Like mithril chainmail will have a dex bonus max of +5. So when you get a mithril chain shirt, you'll have with the dex of 5, you'll get like the same amount of armor as you would full plate mail, basically. So yeah, that's why I choose to stick with the dex of 20. Now, what also is different than other versions of D&D is Constitution is not limited by your class in this at least in this game. So like in previous versions of D&D, only fighters would get the con bonus for health over +2. But in this game, every class gets their full con bonus to health. So if you want a cleric with lots of health, you can boost the con on it, and you'll get the whole con bonus no matter what character your class you play. Also, rogues don't get shields. However, they are able to actually wield light, masterwork, and magical shields. They can't use regular light shields. I don't know if that's a bug. Could be a bug. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I mentioned it to the devs. I don't know if they think it's a bug or if that's how they implemented it. But once you find a masterwork light shield or a magical light shield, a rogue is able to equip it, even without a shield feat. But when you first start off, you have, let's see. Now, a rapier is not one of those weapons. I guess not every weapon can be counted as a two-handed weapon. This one, I guess, can't. A rapier doesn't get the 1.5 bonus for two-handed. They don't get used as a two-handed. But if there's another simple weapon that does, you could switch to it. I'm not sure what. Maybe short swords do. I'd have to get in the game and look. But so rapiers do not get the two-handed bonus, which kind of sucks. So for a while, my rogue does, inconsequential damage in melee. But there's another simple weapon that does do consequential damage and keeps your rogue out of harm's way. It is called the composite shortbow. Oh yes. So you don't have to take another weapon feat. If you don't take another weapon feat, you can find a composite shortbow, and then you can do some substantial damage in combat. And I don't seem to get that weird, critical miss thing happening with the rogues when I use a shortbow. I seem to do just as well as my half-orc barbarian ranger when it comes to that. I don't even have to put points into ranged feats either. But I do choose thrown when I make the character. I put the feat of throwing weapons on my rogue. Now the reason for that is because in this game there are a lot of magical returning throwing weapons. So yeah, there's a lot of them. You got daggers, throwing hammers, throwing axes, maybe one or two other types. But anyway, if you have the throwing feat, you can use all of them. And if there's two different kinds. There's light and heavy. If you have a light one, if you have a light one, your weapon finesse will kick in, and your dex will increase the chance to hit. If it's a heavy one, it relies on your strength for the damage and to hit and chance to hit. And the nice thing about these magical returning daggers and whatnot throwing weapons is that a lot of times they will have bonus elemental damage added to them. So they'll have like the regular 1d6 or 1d4 with their critical thresholds of like 19 to 20 or 18 to 20. And then on top of that, they will say like plus 1d6 fire damage or acid damage or whatever you find. It's pretty random. But yeah, but you don't start finding those right away. Usually I don't start seeing those until I'm like level 4, level 5. So, but I take the throne proficiency early on. I use a short bow as a weapon. to keep my rogue out of combat because they can't use shields or heavy armor. Their armor class is not the best. 18 is fine to start off with, but you know, once you fight more challenging enemies, 18 becomes weak, and the poor rogue takes a beating. I usually give my rogue all my best enchanted items that I find before any other character, because my rogue needs the most help before they start to, you know, shine. And now I've taken the 2-weapon route, where I used, you know, dual-handed, you know, rapier in one hand, short sword in the other. Your offhand, they always seems to have less damage. Like if I put a short sword, which normally does 1d6, when it's in the offhand, it like does 1d4. I don't know why, but I mean, I guess that's just the way they want it. But if you take the feat, you still get a -2 to hit with both of them. And it also matters what size of weapon. So if you were to take like swords as a feat, and also take two-handed weapon, two weapon feat, the heavier the weapon, the more penalty you get. So if I were to put a long sword in one hand, you know, and a short sword in the other, or a dagger, I would get like a -4 to hit with the long sword, because that's how they do it. So, and increasing your chance to hit with 2 weapons is a very high level feat. Like the penalties go entirely away at level 16 if you choose the feat at that time. So yeah, becoming very good with with 2 weapons, 2-weapon fighting it's not really all that. It's hard to, you know, it's really, you're not very good. You're not very useful in combat with 2 weapons until you are much higher level and have all those feats. But I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it's better. I guess it's probably better than just going with 1 weapon, but I didn't like it. I did not like how my rogue would go and do critical miss with a 95% chance to hit. So it just doubly frustrates you when your rogue with a high chance to hit runs up to sneak attack somebody with 2 weapons and misses horribly with both of them over and over and over again. So that's why I don't do that. I go with my composite short bow, and then maybe later I will switch to, if I happen to find a really nice magical rapier that does vampiric, you know, life stealing or something like that. I think there are weapons like that. I have found vampiric weapons before that, you know, give you a lot of health back when you hit stuff. They're nice. I have only ever found one in all of my playthroughs, but it was a very nice weapon. Alright, now that is all I can think of right now for character creation tips. Let me see here. Now we'll go to the game, and then I will discuss other points that I have. I have a whole list of things here that I need to go over. Alright, let's gotta escape and get past this. Yeah. The very first character you create is the character that is used for the starting adventure. Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't make your rogue first, let's just say that. Because it could be harder to get past these battles with your rogue, as weak as they are. Oh, you might be wondering, how did I get that for my little roaming character? Well, it was a little complicated. Somebody else on the Steam forums told me which file it was for this image, and I went on the internet looking for a cool image to convert into a PNG to use for this. I found this angel, but I had to use the Windows Paint program in order to switch it to transparent, so because otherwise it was just a square, you know, with all the whatever else is in the picture along with it, and that was just ugly as can be. So I had to figure out. I've never used Windows Paint really before, not for something like this, and I had to figure out that I had to activate the transparency option in the Paint program, and then I had to manually go pixel by pixel erasing all the other stuff in the image so that only just the character was left, and then it became, you know, and that way, and then the transparency option would allow me to just have only the image and nothing else in the background. So it was a little tricky and complicated, but after a few tries I managed to get it, and a lot of depixelization. It took me a couple hours to get it exactly right, but it can be done. All right. Let's see. This is my main character. I always change these buttons here. I use delay a lot, so I create a button just for delay, so I don't have to look through the big list. Let's see here. I'm looking at my list of stuff here. Lock and save, party, roleplay. Okay, I want to get to the part where I get my whole party. I'll probably just cut this part out of the video. Don't see any enemies yet. Gives me time to put Shield of Faith on all my characters. Where the heck are they? Finally. Oh. Okay. Wow, miss. There we go. That reminds me. I need to go over an option. Where is it? Here we go. D20 dice rolling simulation algorithm. There are 4 of them. This little info button kind of tells you some basic information about it and how they roll. I will tell you the default is the shuffle list, the one that they have at the top, but it sucks. Now, why is that? I don't know why, but for some reason with that algorithm, you get lots of critical hits and lots of critical misses, more than using a different one. That's good and bad. Great if you get lots of critical hits, but bad if the enemies are getting lots of critical hits on you. That sucks. I've tried a couple of these different ones, and what I have found is that the standard RNG seems to give me the most reasonably fair average rolling rates. more, it's better. It's the best one that of these ones I've tried. This one seems to be the one that works the most fair and average on the dice rolls. Yes. Auto save. I set my auto save to 5 days. And that's it. I just wanted to show you that particular option. So if you're playing and you don't like the fact that your party is getting critical hits on them a lot, I suggest using the standard RPG rolling method. You can speed your game up here by changing these. Also, if your party is sitting still, you can progress time by pressing the space bar. I wouldn't do it right now at the beginning because you only have 4 camping supplies and you could use them up before you get to town. But if you push the space bar, time will begin to progress even though you're not moving. And then you press space bar again to stop it. So basically it's paused. So like there, see? Pressing space bar pauses and unpauses time progression. Otherwise, it only progresses when you move. Another thing that I did not know when I first started was you can right-click on a character portrait down here in order to, like, if you wanted to heal somebody, you could right-click, use item. I think you can do that in dungeons too. I think when you're not in combat, you can't cast spells though. There's no, at least I don't think. Let me see. Let me try this other one. Yeah, there's no spell casting. I can't cast a buff spell on myself out of combat, but you can do potions. So let's see, like if I like a potion of heroism, yeah, and I don't have a lot of potions to show you off here, but let's get to this next battle. Oh, before I get to the next battle, one other thing too. Once you get your full party after doing this Spike Fortress, you have to try and remember to go to formations so that you can set up your party formation in a more protective formation for your soft characters. I'll show you how I do it and why, because I've experimented with a few different party formations to find out what works the best, and I will show you what I have come up with after this battle. I don't want to charge into battle just yet. I will with this guy because he's been buffed. I think he can survive another round. I'll heal him next turn. Also, if you create your pure fighters, highly recommend that you because you only get 2 feats unless you're a human. Highly recommend that you take power, attack, and cleave as your first 2 feats. It really sucks when you don't. Oh, they killed him with a crit, bastards. Well, I guess I better buff this character. Now I'm gonna have to hope on getting a cleave here, so I can take out. Ooh, look at that critical hit of 50. That is with a great axe. 1d12 plus 6. That is well. See, this here it calculates the 1.5 times damage from your strength bonus. plus 6. So 1d12 plus 6 is 18. 18 times 3 is 54. So the maximum I could have got with that crit was 54. And I got a 50. Not bad. Alright, now this is a problem. I need to get around to heal him, but I got these obstacles in the way. I may have made an error here. I'll just give myself another buff. Ooh, I didn't kill him. If they crit me, I'll be dead. Alright, now I can heal. I've actually lost this fight before. Just because of random crits. Now that's why you want cleave. Because of that. Nice. Found a heavy, a tower shield right off the bat. You always get this. +1 strength belt. Okay, so now, party formations. As you can see, this is what the default looks like. No formation at all. So, alright. Here is the party formation that I have found to be the most efficient and protective. This is my wizard. I put him right in the middle in the back. This is my barbarian ranger. I put him in the middle in front of the wizard. This is my rogue. I put them here. This is my cleric. I want them there. And these are my 2 fighters. I put them like that, like so, in the front. Now this doesn't protect the wizard 100%, but it gives me more mobility. Just gonna move this back a bit. So, for example, I might get attacked from range through this angle. That is possible. However, from what I've seen, the AI will mostly go for your outer edge characters before trying to hit the wizard. But if I were to move one of these characters up, then enemies will circle around behind and shoot at my wizard. So I find this to be probably about the best formation I can possibly have. If I have my characters all bunched up together, this is because here's what I used to do. I used to do this. Now the wizard is fully protected, it's true, but when enemies rush right up to your party and surround you, if you try to move one character out at all in any direction, enemies will fill that gap. They will, if there's like an enemy here and I move my fighter up, next turn they're going here and attacking my wizard. But they can't do that when you have this other formation. When melee enemies approach you, they can't get to your wizard. And even if you do open up an avenue of attack, and they start heading there, on the wizard's turn, I summon an elemental to fill that gap. So, this to me, from testing, is probably the best formation you could possibly have. And so far, it has proven to be quite efficient. So let's see here. I always give the magical stuff to my rogue first, because they're the ones that need it the most. I could give my rogue this light crossbow. I might actually do that. Just for now. Now you'll find these crafting items. I have not seen what they are for as yet, because I haven't seen any way to craft items. So for the time being, I hold on to them in my last inventory bag. I just click, drag, and drop it right there. Let's see here. I'll give this tower shield. Oh wait, no, I can't. I'll use, once I get a one-handed weapon that I can put here, then I'll equip the tower shield. Let's see, this scale mail, who can use that? I don't think this will change anything. Oh, it does. It gives him one more AC, so good. Okay. And you can also arrange your party down here just by clicking and dragging them. So I want my wizard to be in the back. Yeah, just like that. Now let's see here. What other points I need to cover here? Let's see, party formations. Oh yeah, the resurrection bug. Well, I call it a bug. If you're using this, if you're not using the hardcore roguelike, but in the one I'm using, characters die. I have to take them to a temple to resurrect them. However, there is currently a bug. I'm calling it a bug, where if your character is dead, but they have enough experience to level up to the next level, if you level them up while they are dead, they come back to life for free. You won't. But of course, they don't gain experience when they're dead. So it only works when you are already ready to level up. I've had it happen a couple times when I like to level all my characters at the same time, and so sometimes one character will be ready to level before another one, and I'll just leave it like that until everyone's ready to level up. And they died, and I went and leveled them up and discovered that they become resurrected when it happens. I don't have to go spend a fortune to resurrect them. So on the map you have different places and things. Like if you hover your mouse over them, you'll see over here on the bottom right, challenge level 1. Even though it's yellow, there are usually two different gauges of a single challenge level. So for example, I can have two groups of enemies here that are both challenge level 1, but one of them will be green and the other one will be yellow. Well, they're both challenge level 1, but one is slightly harder than the other. Now my party, being level 1, my party is a challenge level 1 party. Now if I look at a dungeon like this one, it'll say a challenge level 1. Now the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you'll find out that your party isn't as strong as you think it is. And let's say you're level 4 or level 5, and you see a dungeon that says challenge level 5, and it's like green or yellow like this. It's challenge level 1. It doesn't matter if it's yellow. They're the weakest one anyway. But if you're level 5 and you look at a challenge level 5 dungeon, don't think you can do that dungeon, because you probably can't. Enemies are a little stronger than you think. So it's best to always do a challenge level dungeon that is at least 2 levels below yours, because otherwise you may find yourself getting wiped by unexpected difficulty. But if you always take on a challenge level that's below yours, things go a lot easier and quicker. On the Steam Workshop, there are more portraits and avatars. I don't know, you may have noticed that none of these pictures here, except for the wizard and the barbarian, are portraits that are not on the default character creation screen. But I went and I have gotten some character portraits and avatars from the workshop. Now, here's one thing that I did not know when I first started. I did not know that I could right-click on a character down here and change my name or my portrait and avatar. I did not know. I ended up starting over several times because I'm like, I don't like that avatar. I don't like that portrait. So I was like thinking, I was starting over again and again, trying to get portraits and avatars that I liked. Did not know I could do this. Wasted a whole lot of time. But I'm telling you now, so you don't have to waste all the time I did. Combat logs. If you wanted to keep your combat logs, for whatever reason, whether to report a bug or something like that, you have to copy them to the clipboard while you're still in the battle. If you finish the combat before you do that, the log is gone. Something to know. Excess ammunition. You'll see here that characters carry their ammunition in this row right here, and if you have extra ammunition in your inventory, let's say I have, this is all full and I have like another 100 arrows here, your party or your characters will always draw ammunition from the party inventory before they take it from their personal inventory. Now I bring that up because if you happen to come across or find like magic arrows or something, and you want to save them for more difficult situations, what I'll do is I'll put the magic arrows in my inventory, which will bump the regular arrows to my party inventory, and then the game will keep using the party inventory arrows first before I start using up my expensive magic arrows. So that's just one little thing. Now, when you're doing dungeons, you will have what's called boss encounters. I can't really show you right now because I don't have my disarm and dislock or unlock skills. I could go into a dungeon and just, muscle my way through the traps and skip lock picking the chests. But the point is that when you encounter a boss battle in a dungeon, you don't always realize it's a boss battle. What makes it a boss battle is, first off, the music will change. You'll have this music playing like you hear right now throughout the whole dungeon, and then suddenly you walk into a room with an encounter, and suddenly the music is different. It's like fast drum beats pounding, makes you think, oh my goodness, I just encountered, the demon lord or something. It's going to be like, whoa, this must be a major battle. That's the kind of music that plays. Now the reality is that what you really encountered is just another group of goblins that's one level higher than the rest of the dungeon. It's still a slightly more challenging fight, but the main thing is that when you encounter a boss encounter is that you're going to know that you're going to get more loot at the end of it. So that's the neat thing about boss battles. They seem kind of rare at first. You only encounter it like once in a whole dungeon, but when you do find one, you'll know that it is. If you look at the levels of the enemies, you'll see that they might be higher level than other enemies in the dungeon. Although they look the same, they look like the same goblins, the same kobolds. They're just higher level, so they have a little bit higher chance to hit you and have a few more hit points, that kind of thing. But but the thing is that at the end of those boss battles, more loot. There's a higher chance of finding magic stuff and and more. Like a standard battle, you might find 1 or 2 mundane items, but after a boss battle, you might find like 10 items, and some possibly magical. So that's just something to note, and you only know when the music changes. So like when I first started hearing those music changes, I thought it was a bug, to be honest. I didn't realize they actually were real boss battles. I thought they were just like, oh, I'm fighting the same goblins that I've been fighting through this whole dungeon, and suddenly the music's different. That must be a bug. Well, I didn't realize till later that they actually were the boss battle of the dungeon. They looked the same, but they were just stronger, higher level. But they were still easy to kill. So I couldn't tell the difference. Another thing here, let's see, I'm going to go to a town, because I'm going to show you something else. Oh, this is the just the quest to buy some supplies. Get the XP for that. Bing, bing, bing. Okay, now, so you can play this game by either focusing on dungeons, or you can focus on doing tavern missions. It's worth it to check tavern missions, even though maybe you find them boring. Maybe not right away, but if you check tavern missions, sometimes the reward will be magic items, and it's hard to tell. You might see like instead of like a gold value for doing a mission, you might see like a dagger or a longsword picture here instead. But it doesn't tell you. You have to mouse over it, and then over on the right it'll tell you the reward, and it'll actually show the picture of a magic weapon and its abilities. But if you just look at it, if you just glance at it here, it won't show you that. So you'll be like, I don't want to get a long sword just for delivering stuff. But if you check it and you mouse over them, you'll see that it will actually be some nice magic weapon or armor or whatever. So it's worth it to stop at these towns and just have a look at the taverns to see what the rewards are, because sometimes you could get some nice stuff from doing these missions. And this is the marketplace. Villages, small towns and villages, usually if they have a marketplace, you can buy and sell at them without a trading license. As you can see, it's not even requiring me a trading license. But at the bigger towns like this one, you have to get a trade license before you can look at the marketplace and buy and trade the local specialties. So there is a system of trading here if you wanted to partake in it, although I haven't found it necessary. But it is one way to play the game and make money, if you wanted to do that. It's a little bit hard when you don't have the trade licenses to actually make real money doing this at the start of the game, because they have minimum reputations and gold costs involved. Here is the tab where you hire adventurers. From what I've seen, they are usually low level until the towns refresh. Like if I get to level 3 and I revisit this town and I still see all these level 1 heroes, I gotta wait for the town to refresh before I see more appropriately leveled heroes to hire. I think that may be just about all of the points that I wanted to cover. Challenge levels, lock. Oh, if you have more than one character that you get lockpicking and disarm for, I'm not sure if it works for all the party members, but I've had 2 characters that I've gotten lock and disarm on before, and they assist when you try to pick locks or disarm traps. They have it's like an assist roll. They both characters will roll a chance to disarm a trap, and if the first one fails but the second one succeeds, then the trap is disarmed without taking any damage. I think it's been a while, but I did see that, like, if you were to look on the side on the character list, you'll have one character that's the main checker, and then there's the other one has like a little hand symbol, which means the assister symbol. But I may show you that later in my gameplay video. So this video, I just wanted to go over all of these points, tips, and details that most people would not realize when they first start playing. So to help you decide on how to build characters and how to take advantage of any of these little quirks and things, and what things are that you may not understand when you first look at them. So that's what I wanted to accomplish in this video. My next video, I will actually be playing the game and not talking so much. Just be exploring, doing the main quests, the actual game adventure. So, gotten this far, thank you for watching, and I hope it was very informative. Goodbye.